In this video, we're going to walk through deploying serverless HTTP endpoints in Azure with an Azure Function App. So this video complements the Azure VM scale sets tutorial that I did a while back, where we deployed a simple Python-based microservice using the Flask framework with a virtual machine scale set. So what we're going to do is deploy a set of Python-based serverless functions using an Azure Function App. And so what we're going to end up doing is creating a API compatible API with the original project, which means you kind of have the same endpoints. The code's a little different. It's not quite Flask. I tongue-in-cheek call it Flasky in places, or Flask-like. So you might see that. We'll look at the code, and the Azure solution is actually more Flask-like than the other ones, as near as I can tell. But we will walk through that. By the end of this video, you'll be able to learn how to deploy Python-based endpoints as Azure Functions using Terraform. Then once we've deployed it publicly, we're going to secure it with function keys. And that's a very simplistic way of locking down your API so only authorized users can call it. Azure's is probably the jankiest way of secure is the function keys, and we'll get into that. But in the wild, you're probably going to use OAuth to secure your APIs in some form or another, and not these cloud native ones. And I'm planning on doing a video just on that because that's a fairly common scenario. All right, serverless computing with Azure. Well, let's talk about the three characteristics of serverless computing. Well, first off, serverless. What does it mean? It means no server management. The term you might think it implies that there are no servers. There are servers. Most of the stuff is deployed on the back end as containers, probably with Kubernetes. I don't know, but you can tell if you do OS list and look at files that you're in a container. And so you don't manage the servers, Azure does. And what that gives you is also this automatic scaling. All that rules that we talked about, 60% scale up, 60% for 5-minute scale down. It does all that for you via the container orchestration on the back end. And finally, it's pay as you go. In the VM solution, you're paying for those VMs as long as they're up. Here, you are just paying for the number of requests and the function execution time. One way of thinking of Azure Functions is they are the smallest amount of compute and the cheapest compute you can buy. And you give Azure some code. We're doing Python, but they support .NET and Java and many others. And what we do is the system takes the code and then it triggers it on various things. Now we're going to trigger it through HTTP endpoints, but these Azure functions are used for stream processing, event processing, and a lot of other things. So this is just one use case for Azure Functions, and it's the most straightforward, I think. So here is the diagram to what we're going to build. We've got the Flasky Function App, and it's got 4 routes to various things, or to various endpoints. Good to go, candidates, candidate get, candidate post. And of course, all of it is stored in Cosmos DB, which is a document database that's the cloud native to Azure. We have some prerequisites we got to take care of. Obviously, we need an Azure account. You're going to have the Azure CLI. Going to have the install the latest Terraform, and I recommend installing Postman for testing. And optionally, I have a link here for installing Azure Function Tools for local debugging. One of the things that you'll find is that the Azure does not allow you to kind of update the functions on the fly once you've deployed them from Terraform, or the other ones do. So if you want to do local debugging, you have to use these function tools. Now, I've done a video for this, Azure and Terraform Easy Setup. All our videos follow sort of the same framework. So if that'll walk you through the setup if you've never done it before. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our Ubuntu development environment, and I am going to copy this link here and put it in. And it's going to go and download the code and switch to the correct directory. So in all our projects, we have this checkenv script, which is going to check all those things that we talked about. So at this point, I think we're ready to start the build. And I'm going to do apply. And while that's running, we'll go back and we'll talk about the general build structure. It deploys the infrastructure first. It includes the Cosmos DB and the Azure Function App. And we have a role that's deployed to allow the Function App to access the Cosmos DB candidate table. And then we have a second phase where we zip up the Python code, and there's this nice little AZ CLI, what they recommend for actually pushing the code into the Function App. And I think the way they do it is they're kind of thinking from like a GitHub action integration point, where you would have your Terraform building the main infrastructure, and then maybe you have a pipeline that builds the your code and then pushes it via the CLI. So I think that's why they kind of recommend this approach. You can put it into the Function App Terraform. It's a little bit more unwieldy. The other ones use these checksum validation to detect code changes. They just have a slightly different approach. And then after the validation, we're going to run the script, validate script, and it will verify that everything is running as expected. Okay, after about 10 minutes or so, the build should succeed, and it should give you the verification that's tested has worked. And what we'll do is we'll copy that, and we'll go to the browser here. So it's publicly available. And what we'll do now is we will go through the Azure console and take a look at what got built. So we'll go in here and we'll say resource groups. And we have the Flasky resource group, so we'll click on that. And so here are the elements of the function app and its ancillary pieces. The first one is the candidates database table, which is using Cosmos. That's the one that takes forever to build. Application insights, that's what you need for logging and local or debugging of the Azure Functions when you run in the console, so we'll enable that. Then we got the function app. The service plan, that's where you can specify if you want to have always on servers. So it kind of violates the serverless because you're giving it a little bit of direction. By default, I use the completely serverless model, so it'll do it all itself. But there is like a cold start penalty if you don't have it always running. And then finally, the way it works on the back end is you have a storage account, and that's where where the function app stores everything. So it's a little bit different than AWS because you don't know where it stores it. It probably is an S3 bucket or something similar in the back end, but here you explicitly have to specify a storage account. And it works the same way with GCP. You have to create some cloud storage to store your data. So let's go into the function app. That's the main event. We've got the code. The things I was going to say was environment variables. We set a lot of environment variables in the Terraform code, and then we actually retrieve it in the code. So like the Cosmos database name and the Cosmos endpoints. So there's this notion of environment variables that are set just for your execution environment, and that's how you do a lot of parameterization. So let's go back to the overview, and let's click on one of these. Now, unlike the AWS example, this is all code in one module. So if you look at the code, it's a lot more Flask-like in that it's one module, and it's also you've got these annotations in the code where you define the HTTP routes and the methods, where you do that with the API gateway within AWS. So this is pretty neat. It's a little more Flask-like. I like it better this way. However, you can't actually edit. The other environments allow you to do some simple editing here, and it's not a big deal because more than likely you would only do very surface level changes here to kind of show you how you would actually do some local debugging. So this goes back to, if you look at the README, the Azure function tools which I've installed, And so what I can do is within my environment, I can go to the code. So that's in 02 Flasky. And I can do func start. And what that's going to do is create a local runtime to this machine, and it validates all your code to make sure that, to see what the endpoints are. And so at this point, I've got this local server running, and I could go in here and do curl paste details equals true. And I'm running it on this local machine. So you would do your debugging in there. And there's really good integration with Visual Studio Code, which kind of makes sense because Azure and Visual Studio Code are Microsoft products. There's also really good integration with Azure with GitHub. Also makes sense because GitHub is another Microsoft property. So let's take this and let's bring up Postman and let's run it through Postman. So I'm going to go to perms and authorization. I'm going to say no auth because we're not ready for that, and do send. And you can see it's coming through Postman. And so there's good to go. There's candidates. Then there is candidate. And then everybody loves a homie. So I'm going to do a post, which should create a new record for homie. And then if I go back to Git and I say candidates, I should have both John Smith and homie. So we've exercised the 4 endpoints, and we have no authorization, so it's on the public internet. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to turn on function keys. And so function keys, there's just a identifier you put into the header to do the authorization. It's not very robust. The other ones, when you do authorization through the cloud native functions, that they're time bound. This thing is, the function key is valid for as long as the app is up, and you can rotate it, but it's on you to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that on. So let's go back to the code and see where I am at. Azure Function App, and I need to go to Function App, and I'm going to do nano variables.tf. And then that I'm going to go through and I'm going to uncomment that. And this tells the system that I now want you to do function key authorization. So let me write that, hit exit, and go back one directory, and we're going to do apply. And this is going to go and rebuild with just the function key setting. So the build, after a while, the build will complete. And the first thing you notice is validate fails on every one because it says it's unauthorized because it doesn't have the header. And we output the header value here. And so let's go and see what in Postman and see what it looks like. So let's go back to good to go, details equals true. And now we get unauthorized. So now we got to fix it. So we're going to go and click on authorization type and do API key. And the key is X function key. And then you need to go and pull out the value here. Copy that. And then paste it there. And let's send. And there you go, it's back working. And then all the endpoints work. So we have now secured it with a function key. I guess we'll talk about Azure specific things, but while I do that, I'm going to go and I am going to kill this thing. So we want to be good stewards of our cloud environments. So let's do destroy. And it takes 10 minutes to destroy. And while it's doing that, we'll talk about sort of the differences we highlighted with Azure. Function apps. First of all, the functions I think are pretty cool. The function code is more Flask-like than any other providers. The HTTP information is in annotations in the code, just like Flask, so it's really easy to understand. And that's version 2 of the function model. Version 1 wasn't so good, but version 2 is pretty good. So that's a positive. The second thing is the debugging. You can't do a simple debugging. Sooner than later in Azure, you're going to have to install the Azure Function tools and figure out local debugging and it's how it integrates. And it's pretty good. So it's worth doing. And I'd probably do a video. All three of them have a local environment. It's just to do a simple test. I didn't need it. I need it for the other two. So that's a negative a bit, but it's in the grand scheme of things, you're never going to use the console for a lot of debugging. And so the last one is probably the biggest weakness with Azure Functions. The function key thing, it just is not very secure. It doesn't rotate the keys automatically. If somebody gets the capture of the key, they add the keys to your API. The other cloud converters on their native one are the tokens that you put in the headers are only good for a certain period of time, which sort of has its own built-in securities in case those tokens get leaked somehow. But at the end of the day, most people are going to use some variant of OAuth with an external identity provider like Okta or Ping or Google or Microsoft has one too. So I'm not sure many people use the cloud native securing like function keys, but it is there, so we covered it. So that's it for Azure.